Today, I'm very excited to take you through some of the first looks at Zoho's new Zia Agent Studio. This is something that we just got access to today. Well, when I'm recording this, I should say, and very excited to hop in and kind of show you around what it is that Zoho is going to be releasing here in the next little while. Let's go ahead and jump right on in. First thing you can see is we have a home page here where they want you to use Zia to get help building these agents. Their goal with this product is to, you don't need to know any coding or technical skills to get this thing built and structured and put together. It's all a point and click interface. Although you should have a basic understanding of Zoho's APIs, because you're going to need to configure which APIs you want your agent to have access to in order to perform whatever actions you have planned for it. I'll show you an agent that I was building before doing this recording. My idea was an agent that would take a look at deals and, based on what stages each deal is in, figure out if any deals need tasks associated with them to move them on to the next stage. All right, so here I'm showing you an overview of an agent that I've already created, and I'll show you how I created it here in just a little bit, but I wanted to give you a sense of where it is we're going to end up so you have a better idea as we're creating it where we're going. So inside of your Zia agent, right, you have just the agent name, and you can create a little icon for him. Same kind of thing you would see on like a OpenAI assistant interface. Down here, you have the agent's info, where you can define the model that you want it using, as well as its basic description, its role, and then its overall instructions. You can edit this later at any time. So right now, the demo account that we've been granted access to has two models associated with it: Zoho's internal hosted LLM that they've recently released, as well as a GPT-4o mini, and that comes from OpenAI. You can also see that up here I have this little version drop down. So as I've kind of moved around with some different ideas of which model I want to use, what tools I have associated, you can switch back and forth between those versions at any time and deploy them whenever necessary. So that's the basic info over here. Then up here at the top, you have the knowledge and you have the tools. So knowledge is a collection of files that your agent should have access to in order to, make decisions. What is its database of instructions going to come from? What context will it have access to outside of your direct Zoho CRM books, projects, records that it can grab? And then tools are, what capabilities does your agent have in order to take actions for following its instructions? So here, this one, I'm having deal only with the CRM. So in here, I've got things like getting deal records, creating task records, updating deal records, updating tasks, looking at deal timeline records, that sort of thing. Those are the basic components whenever you create an agent. Is you need to set up its knowledge and you need to set up its tools. Once you've done that, you have ways that you can access this agent via API to trigger its actions if you want things manually triggered, or you can leave triggers up to the agent itself. One of the nice things about this agent API tab here is that you can quickly create a bot in Cliq that will allow you to chat with your agent similar to the way you would chat with a custom GPT or OpenAI assistant. And then finally, of course, you have further details about each version, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. So now that you know the pieces that all have to come together to create this agent, let's go ahead and create another version of this from scratch. So to create one, I'm going to come to Agent Studio. This is where we're going to make our agent. Now you have two options here. You can create it totally from scratch, where you define all the configurations and actions, or you can use Zia's AI tool. For the purposes of this, I'm going to create it from scratch, just in case, because I figure if you can make it from scratch, then you can definitely use Zia if you would like to. But if Zia is having trouble understanding exactly what it is that you want, you're going to want to be able to create it from scratch. Basic information, this is stuff that we already went through. So I'm just going to recreate the same thing again. So this agent description, helpful. Then we'll pick our model. I'm going to stick with the Zoho hosted LLM and its agent's instructions. All right, so here I've given it a name, a description, the model, and the instructions. So I'm going to go ahead and click on continue. And now we're going to go into knowledge here. So I already have this in place from when I was building this earlier. So I'm actually going to hop over and show you how you can add things to your knowledge base. So you do that from your sidebar here, come down to this folder. To create your knowledge base, we're going to click on Upload Files, and you can upload things directly from your computer. You also have access to Zoho Work Drive, where you will pick a specific file and then decide a frequency at which that file should be queried and updated. So depending on how often information in that file is going to change, you'd want to change your frequency. They also have web scraping here, where you can import from a URL. So something like a government database that might have a PDF endpoint that you could search through, then you can sync from that kind of document. But that's the way you should think of knowledge base elements, is that they should be documents. There should be like an instance of information that Zia can access. So in the case of Zoho Learn, I selected the hub and selected the space and manual that my document was in. And right now I only have one article in there. So I go ahead and leave that selected as sales process. And then I clicked on import. And so with that, I was able to now have this sales process tasks and goals article all set up in my knowledge base. And from within your knowledge base, you can do things like see a summary of that document, which is compiled by Zia's AI. So with that in place, now as I'm creating my deal task assistant, I'm going to select that knowledge base article as part of this agent's knowledge base. Now for tools, right? This is where we control how the agent thinks, behaves, and interacts. So I'm going to hop back over here again to show you how we get these all set up. So over here on the left-hand side again, we've got tools, and I'm going to create a tool group. I already have one here for the CRM tasks and deals, but I'm going to create a brand new one for you guys. So you want to start by creating a tool group name. I'll call this one Deals and Tasks in CRM. Very creative in my naming conventions here. And you can see that you have different services that you can select from. This is something similar to you might see in connections page, right? When you're setting up a custom connection in Zoho CRM or Books or Desk or wherever. So in this case, I'm going to come down here to Zoho CRM where there's a predefined one. And if you are very tech savvy and you have your own YAML files that can define, tools and endpoints with a certain JSON schema, you could do that as well. I'm going to stick with the predefined ones for right now. So I'm going to click here on Zoho CRM. And you'll see here that I have all of these actions that the Zia agent could theoretically take. But I do have to add which specific actions I want this agent to have access to. As far as this little search bar, it only searches in the API name, I believe. So if got to scroll all the way up to the top again. So for example, I need it to access deals. So I'm going to type in deal here, and I want it to be able to get a deal. Well, first I want to be able to search a deal based on criteria, right? Because I might not know. I might ask it which deal has an amount over $5,000, something like that. I want the agent to be able to search based on that. So I'm going to add the search functionality here. If I want the agent to be able to grab, field information to know what fields are present on a deal, I could add that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in place. If I want it to have access to the deal's timeline, right? I want to see what actions have been done on this deal up until this point, not just where the deal sits right now. So I'll add that in there. And then, of course, actually getting the list of deals, right? If I wanted to get any one specific record. And then finally, we'll look at updating a deal record in case I want the agent to do anything where it's going to maybe actually change the deal stage. Because maybe I'll be chatting with my agent here and it'll say, well, actually, it looks like everything that should be done has been done. Oh, well, then can you move it to the next stage for me? If I want to do that, I need it to have the tool to be able to make that update. So that's all the deal stuff. Now I'm going to do the same thing for tasks because I want this to be able to do things with tasks as well. I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. Search task based on criteria, get the task timeline, get task records, create a task, as well as getting task metadata. So now that I have all of these tools selected, or these APIs selected, I'm going to click on Next. This is where I have to enter a description. CRUD operations for deals and tasks in CRM. CRUD, if you're not familiar, stands for create, read, update, and delete. So basically get, put, push, post, delete. I suppose technically I haven't given any delete permissions here, so I'll just say that it's crew. Finally, now that I have all the tools in place, the tools are already marked as ready, but if I wanted to test and make sure that I have the right connections set up for these, I can check up to 5 of these tools at once, and I can click on Test. It's going to prompt me to select a connection that I want this agent to run on. I already have one here set up. If I didn't, then I would want to click on New, which takes me to my connections page where I'll create a connection, select CRM, and select the appropriate scopes. Which scopes do I need to have? Well, good news is that when you're associating the connection, there's this little tooltip here that specifies all of the scopes that you need. So in this case, the scopes that I need would be crm.modules.deals.read, Zoho search.securesearch.read, settings.modules.read, and modules.all. Now, I've already set those up, but I can also show you here if I go to this CRM record. I've consolidated all of those scopes into just 3 scopes of Zoho CRM.modules.all, Zoho CRM.settings.all, and then the Zoho search.securesearch.read. So those should be the only ones that I need because doing modules.all includes modules.deals.read, modules.tasks.read, etc., etc. So I will associate the connection here. Now, this is still in very early days. It told me that there was a problem, but I found that if I click on New and come back here and click on Associate, it says everything's fine. So it seems to be that things are working there. So I've got that all tested out. We'll do this one more time with the others. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here, if you click on one of them, you can get a preview of what kind of information comes back from one of these calls. Let's go ahead and test these other 5. Yeah, I'm done. Click on Associate. Great. It's all been tested. And again, this is still in very early beta, so the exact interface might change a little bit when this gets fully released to the public, but the basic premise here will be the same of you select APIs, you give APIs authorization, and then you associate those authorized APIs to an agent. So now click on Save. This tool group is now in place, Deal and Tasks in CRM, right, where I have all of my APIs established here. So now I can go back to my Agent Studio, and I'll actually go back and see if I might need to refresh this page. Of course. One sec while I get all my stuff back. All right, I'm back. Now that I have filled back in the stuff that just disappeared, you can see down here, I now have all of the tools inside of the Deals and Tasks and CRM tool group that I just finished creating. So here, I'm going to go ahead and select all of those. So you'll notice that since I have the opportunity to select these here, you can create a tool group that uses every possible action in CRM and just pick the specific ones that you want when you're creating a particular agent, rather than creating a tool group to be used by just one agent. You could have a tool group be used by many different agents, just selecting which specific tools within that tool group should be utilized. And finally, you have guardrails that are on by default to help prevent your bot from being a nasty, bad person. So preventing toxicity, as well as trying to promote fairness and bias. And, well, not promote bias, promote fairness and eliminate or curb bias as much as possible. So we'll go ahead and click on create. I now have my agent here. It's on version 1, right? And this looks very similar to what I showed you a little bit earlier, right? We have our knowledge base, we have our guardrails, our tools, and then all of our information about the instructions and such over here. Finally, what we have is the task of deploying this agent. So you can deploy it as a digital employee or deploy it using a connection. Currently, you'll see I'm going to run into a slight issue here, but when you are deploying your agent, you're going to map which parameters the model should handle versus which ones should be handled when an agent is specifically triggered, or if there's one that should always have a constant value. So what this means is that if you're planning on triggering this agent's actions via API, making an external API call to say, hey, deal task agent, wake up, you can decide if there are any parameters that you specifically want the agent to use, or you could leave it in the hands of the model and simply using natural language describe what parameters that agent should be using. So currently in our test organization, we don't have digital employees enabled, so got to work on that. That'll be a new video, but I can show you what it looks like deploying using a connection. So I'm going to do that. Brings up the connections that I have that I could use. I'm going to use it with the CRM. Select the product, and it has now been deployed. And so now I'm going to come over to the agent API, and this is the fun thing that I was mentioning earlier, that you can create a bot directly from the agent interface. So when you click on create a bot here, we'll call this deal tasks, give a description here. Deal task is a bot that uses the deal task assistant Zia agent. I'll go ahead and click on create bot, and it's done it. So now I can click on this and it'll take me into Cliq. I've already subscribed to it, obviously because I created it. So I'll go ahead and click on continue. And here I've got my bot here called deal tasks. So I could actually chat with this little guy now. What is my deal with the highest value? Have to give it some permissions. See, the bot has said, based on the retrieved data, the deal with the highest value is Benton with amount of $250,000. And I can confirm for you here in our sample account. If I come here to my deals and I look at all 16 here, I'll go ahead and sort by the highest one. Yep, sure enough, it's the Benton account with an amount of $250,000. There you have it. This is our first look into the new Zia Agent Studio, the basic process of how an agent gets created and what its capabilities theoretically could be. I was doing a little bit more testing with our deal task assistant bot. Still having a little trouble figuring out how to create or update records with the CRM, but it is doing a great job at reading records from the CRM, which I do really like. So needless to say, this is only the first video of this that we're making. It's an early beta project, so this thing is probably going to be changing day to day as they're releasing it and refining it, everything like that. And this certainly is not going to be the last video that we do about this here at Zenatta. So I'm looking forward to playing around with this some more. If you guys have gotten access to the Zia Agents beta, I'd love to hear your guys' experience with it. Have you built something that works pretty well? Do you prefer trying to create something from scratch or try to use the Zia tool to create the agent on your behalf? We'd love to know your guys' experience with it just as much as ours. That's going to do it for our video here today. If you found this video enjoyable and informative, please give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube. If you want to meet with any of our team members about buffing up your CRM, head over to Zenatta.com, click on book a meeting. You can get meeting with one of our sales team soon. We'll see you next video. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.